Good morning. I am Kelly Green, our Director of Member Relations. My pronouns are she and her. Challenged by our liberating faith, we discover deeper spiritual meaning, nurture loving community, cultivate courageous connections, and partner in the work of justice. Welcome to all of you on the live stream and in person. We are pleased to have guests with us in this room and participating virtually. If you would like to learn more about this congregation or are looking for ways to get involved here, please contact me. My email is kelly@uuccharlotte.org. We have large print orders of service, personal hearing assistance devices, and an elevator available if those might be helpful to you. There's a hearing loop in our alternative worship space downstairs in the Bernstein room. We also have coloring pages and fidgets for all ages out here in the vestibule. Some announcements. Today at 11:30, we will have our theme discussion on thresholds right here in the sanctuary. This coming Saturday at 11:30, we will have a memorial service to honor our longtime member, Mimi Vollum, with a lovely reception by our congregational care team after. Next Sunday, on October 13th, we will get to hear from Reverend Rosemary Bray McNatt, who is president of Star King School for the Ministry. Highly recommend coming to hear her. We also hope you will join us after the service in Bernstein for a presentation on the future of ministry. And there will be refreshments, and you are all invited. Our Sunday morning volunteer training has been rescheduled for Monday, October 21st at 6:30 on Zoom. If you are a current volunteer or you want to start ushering, greeting, doing coffee service, being an audio or visual tech, or doing safety patrol, you are invited. We need our volunteers to help make Sunday mornings possible. So we encourage you to come. And please see our website and our weekly newsletter Currents for information about all the stuff going on here at UUCC. Again, a warm welcome to each and every one of you, whether you are here in person or joining via live stream, whether today is your first or 1,000th Sunday in our midst. We are stronger because you're with us. We are one people of many beliefs, origins, identities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, and all loved. It is good to be together.
Good morning, and welcome once more. This is a time made sacred by each and every one of us gathered here today, whether online or here in person, or even those watching or listening another time. Indeed, we are all of us participants in this sacred hour. I'm Reverend Amanda Weatherspoon, and what a joy it is to be gathered here again together once more. A new month means a new theme for worship, religious education, and congregational life. For the month of October, the theme is thresholds. Simply defined, a threshold is a point of entry or a beginning. And we'll spend the next month exploring all the ways that thresholds show up in our lives and in the lives of our congregation and our larger community. And we also recognize the moment in which we are gathering this morning. In the wake of Hurricane Helene, this past week has been devastating for so many in our region and beyond. So many are without precious resources. So many are facing the destruction of their home or their community. And so many are left wondering and figuring out new ways forward. All across the community, all across the country, community organizations, including faith communities such as ours, are figuring out how we can help, how we can contribute to our neighbors, how we can show up. And surely there will be a whole host of opportunities. But here and now, we have a tremendous opportunity to support our UU churches in the most impacted areas. Through our partners at the UU Justice North Carolina and SEAC villages here in Charlotte, UUCC will become a collection site for much needed supplies. These supplies will be transported to Western North Carolina daily. Folks are needing supplies like water and water jugs, hygiene care, buckets, batteries, all sorts of things. So be on the lookout this week for specific drop-off instructions and a list of needed items. We'll also be sharing our plate this week today with UU Justice NC, who's on the ground where it counts the most. So this morning, we light this chalice in the spirit of community and in the spirit of hope. We light this chalice in the spirit of showing up and caring for our neighbors. We light this chalice for all of those who've been impacted by the devastation of Hurricane Helene. So as we move into this time of worship in this moment, I invite you to practice that community care in the here and now by rising in body or in spirit to turn and greet your neighbor with a hello, a good morning, a howdy, how are you?
of lifestyle and religious education, and I'm happy that you let me in the door today. The other side of that door had some scary stuff. I'm so glad you invited me in, because sometimes it's just nice to cross through from all of the other stuff to come in here with you all. I like it here, don't you? Yes. But sometimes we find ourselves in hard places. And all we want to do is close the door on that and come into a place where we're welcomed and accepted. I know we might not always have physical doors to cross through. Sometimes they're in our minds. Have you ever been stuck somewhere and you wish that you could imagine a door to cross through where things would be different?
Oh boy, yes.
Oh yes, I know I have. But that's the cool thing about imagination. We can think about things in our minds, and sometimes that can be the thing that gets us unstuck. Now, sometimes we think that imagining is just pretending things that aren't true right now, like imagining I'm a princess and I have a special rainbow unicorn. I mean, I can see it now. I've got a magic wand, and my unicorn carries me all over the land granting wishes, and all the people come to my castle and have a party, and my unicorn eats happy pie, and... Oh, sorry. I think I got carried away with my imagination. But that happens sometimes. I did like that, though. I could really see all the things in my mind. I bet even some of you could picture it, right? I think we can all imagine. Doesn't matter who you are or how old you are. Sometimes imagining is fun, but other times it can actually change our lives. Did you know that? It's true. It takes imagination to get across the thresholds or those in-between places and on to something new. Does anyone here who know who Thomas Potter is? Okay. Well, somebody does. All right, well, he's not related to Harry Potter. But Thomas Potter is one of my favorite people in history. He was just a simple farmer in New Jersey way back in the 1700s. And he imagined that there could be a church where all the people were saved and all the people were good. He believed in it so much, he built a chapel and waited for the perfect person who he imagined would come and preach there in the chapel and tell all the people about universal salvation and about people being good. And then one day, the weather brought a ship to his town, and it got stuck and it couldn't leave. And on that ship was a man named John Murray, who never imagined he would come to America and be a preacher anymore. He wasn't going to do that anymore. But Thomas Potter met him and knew he was the one he had imagined. Many other things happened. It's my favorite UU story, so I'm sure I will tell you again and all of the details at some other time. But when John Murray did preach in Potter's Chapel, and that's his story was about all how people were good and saved, and we were all going to be together. And that's how Universalism, part of Unitarian Universalism, got to America. All that happened, and it started with one farmer imagining that it might happen. Imagining is pretty powerful, right? Someone imagined so many things that have changed our lives. Someone imagined that we could have electric lights, that we could have airplanes that fly in the air, that we could have medicines that save people from diseases, and phones that take pictures, and cameras that can see behind us when we drive. Someone imagined the story of Dorothy and Oz, the music John plays on the piano, and the paints that made Van Gogh able to paint Starry Night. Using our imagination can spark an idea, inspire a story, create new things, and it can bring people to a chapel to hear the stories of everyone being good and accepted, just like that might be what have brought you here to this community. A long time ago for some, and for some of those that are celebrating today, the door to UUCC may have come recently. But either way, we're sure glad that you imagined a place like this and found us. I hope all of you can always imagine too, whether it's playful and fun, thoughtful and important, inspiring and creative, or whatever doors you need to cross through to get to the next place in your life. Now, it's possible sometimes that people might not want you to get through the threshold of a door you're trying to get through. But if you believe in yourself, I bet you can break through those boundaries. In fact, I can see a door in front of me like that right now. It looks like a strong door, and it has a sign that says, "You cannot get through here." I'm a little scared. I wonder if you can help me imagine. Can you? Will you help me? I say, will you help me? Yes. Let's think together. I want you to imagine that I have super strong arms and legs, and that I can kick and push through this door. Do you think I can? Yes. All right, 1, 2, 3. Thanks. That was a good door. We did it. Thanks so much. Whenever I come to another door like that, I'm going to imagine you all with me, helping me get through. And I hope next time you come to a door like that, you can imagine all of us with you and break through. Now, it's time for the children and youth to cross through another door. We'll be going to classes, and as we get sung out, we'll gather in Freeman Hall and then separate for classes. Just a reminder, pick up for Spirit Play will be on Playground 1, and for everybody else will be in Priestley. Now, let us go through these doors into Freeman Hall and see what we can imagine.
It is a joy to welcome each of you into this community. Becoming a member of a congregation is an important step, but it's only the first step. I encourage you to grow your religious life and explore and share your unique gifts. We extend this special welcome to all of you. We celebrate your presence among us, and we commit ourselves to helping you grow and learn and making you an integral part of this community. May your energy and enthusiasm be a source of joy in this new life around us, and may you always feel heard and included. Today is our new member recognition ceremony, and as your names are called, the new members' names are called, and the bios are read, we invite the new members to walk to the front and sign the membership book here, and after you sign, you can line up right here in front of us.
Peter Bassone. He's a psychotherapist specializing in LGBTQIA community and relationship and marital therapy. He's a theater enthusiast and working on a new theater venture for Charlotte. He is semi-retired, looking for a sense of community, working toward common goals. Peter Bassone. April Bundy and Wallace Murphy with Dennis. Dennis is with him. April is a writer, musician, podcast narrator occasionally for the Pseudopod Horror Fiction podcast, and is currently serving as the outreach coordinator for Mad Dog Pack, who have billboards all over North Carolina and the rest of the U.S. Wallace is an electrician and a Buddhist who hopes one day to finish his vows to become a monk. And Dennis is in the 6th grade at Porter Ridge Middle School and loves Dungeons and Dragons and is obsessed with cans of beans. April and Wallace.
I feel like we should clap.
and Heather Burnell. She says, I was born in northern New York State and have lived in the Charlotte-Pineville area for over 30 years. I'm retired from corporate America and am a mixed media artist. I have 2 adult children. Nick is in grad school at Chapel Hill for education, and Ryan is learning to be a pilot. My life partner of 14 years, Ben, is a retired social worker therapist. Welcome, Heather. Barbara Busey.
This is why I came back.
Barbara says, I'm a prodigal daughter. After 28 years as a member, I left Charlotte for 8 months, and now I'm back among my peeps. This liberal, welcoming community is my home. I look forward to reconnecting with past friends and making new ones. I'm glad to have you back. Becky Droz. Becky lives in South Carolina with her husband Craig, super rescue dog Sky, and goats Jaeger and Tito. Becky owns Gorilla HR and provides human resources consulting with a focus on compensation. She works with employers to determine competitive pay rates and considers herself a pay equity champion, working to close the very real wage gap that exists based on gender and race ethnicity. Becky loves to travel and checked off a bucket list trip to the Galapagos Islands earlier this year. She dreams of a future where justice, equity, and compassion truly exist for everyone. Glad to have you, Becky. Susan Gray. After attending services and bringing my daughter to religious education here at the UUCC since this past fall, I decided I wanted to be a member of this community. The values of this community match my own personal values. My daughter and I are benefiting from what this community has to offer, and I want to contribute what I can. Perhaps I will not be able to give back as much as I get, but I want to give what I can. Amen. Jean and Joe Rittock. Joe is a UNC Chapel Hill and Michigan law graduate. He practiced employment law in Detroit for 40 years until he retired in 2014. Jean is a DePaul University, Michigan MBA and had a long career in information technology, retiring in 2012. They moved to from Grosse Pointe, Michigan to Chapel Hill in 2014 and to Charlotte in 2023. They have 2 daughters, Christine, who lives in West Hartford, Connecticut, and Stephanie, who lives here in Charlotte. They have 3 grandchildren, 1 in Connecticut and 2 in Charlotte. They are longtime UUs. Welcome to them. I didn't make enough room. Mary Kate and Will Starkle with Maggie and Evelyn. They say, we moved from Atlanta to Charlotte in December 2023 and immediately felt welcomed by the UUCC community. Mary Kate is a nonprofit executive focusing on using the power of public schools to achieve social justice for historically marginalized communities. Will switched careers from public school teaching to his first love, geology. He works to find and evaluate lithium deposits. Maggie and Eve go to Billingsville Cotswold Elementary School. Maggie is a hardcore Swiftie. Evie is a born performer. They love reading and playing Dungeons and Dragons with their dad. Pat Wolf. Born and raised a Midwesterner till I moved to Charlotte in 1970, planning to stay about 2 years, but loved it and wouldn't move. Was a child welfare social worker in Illinois, then a mental health psychotherapist for 45 years in Charlotte. Married and divorced twice. One daughter, age 63, who now lives with me to take care of me as I age. One grandson and great-grandson, all in Charlotte. Environmental activist, used to be a political activist also. Was a member of this church in the 70s, transferring back now from Unity recently. Welcome. From a variety of places, an extensive array of circumstances, a wide range of religious traditions, our paths now meet here in the Unitarian Universalist community of Charlotte. Today, we celebrate these who have recently found their ways to us and have become ones of us. If you are a member of the UUCC, please rise in body or spirit and say aloud the words on the screen.
Each of you brings a light. Each of you brings vitality to this community. Each of you brings a sense of hope and renewal. Together we form a beacon of hope to each other and to our world. May our light shine so brightly together for so many years. Y'all, look at this group. These new members. From us and them to a we, to an ours. May it be so.
So let us now say together the mission of this congregation.
Challenged by our liberating faith, we discover deeper spiritual meaning, nurture loving community, cultivate courageous connections, and partner in the work of justice.
Thank you. And please go ahead and stay risen and by your spirit for our opening hymn. New members, you're welcome to file off as the music begins playing. Won't you join me for our opening hymn, We Would Be One? The lyrics are on the screen. comes from Adrienne Marie Brown, Ode to Radical Imagination. There is an edge beyond which we cannot grasp the scale of our universe. That border, that outer boundary is imagination. The only known edge of existence, the only one we can prove by universal experience. We can imagine so much. We can only imagine so much. If perhaps it is a function of our collective minds, a dream of endless nights, then there will be abundance so long as we can imagine it. Abundance on earth if we can imagine it, or abundance of earths. A sphere for every tribe and every combination, and to have it all we need is to remember that there is an edge and to grow our dreams beyond it. So let's start at the beginning with the dreaming. The dreaming is a time beyond time, a time when time split wide and opened up, when the world went from sleeping to awakening. The dreaming, or the dream time, is the whole of the creation stories of the Aboriginal people, of the First Nations people of Australia. But it's more than a collective of creation stories. It's a way of life. It's an entire system of living. Now, the dream time is a concept often beyond Western understanding. Even the word to describe it, it's an English word, the dream time. And it was coined by an anthropologist in the 1800s, and it doesn't quite capture what it really is, but essentially, the essence of the dreaming is a conversation between creation and the divine. A co-creative act where plants and animals and humans were sung into existence by the ancestral spirits. And then after creation, after the creation of it all, those same ancestor spirits embedded themselves into that very creation, into the rivers and water holes, into the hills and rocks and streams, transforming those places into pieces of creation, transforming those pieces of creation into sacred sites. These sites then became the places of ceremony and ritual, sacred singing and dance and prayer that in turn keep the ancestral spirits alive to this day. Ancestor making creation, and then creation sustaining ancestors, an ongoing act of co-creation between nature and human and divine, between past and present and future, a time beyond time, a dreaming beyond the edge. And then we fast forward thousands of years and to the other side of the world, to our neck of the woods, where a crowd in the hundreds and thousands gathered together to hear for the first time what is arguably one of the most prolific phrases of the 20th century: I have a dream. We hear that now, and we automatically know the context. We automatically know the place, the person, and we automatically know the dream. I have a dream, MLK Jr. proclaimed on August 28, 1963. A dream of longing, a dream of liberation, a dream of actualized, lived justice, a dream, he said, that one day this nation will rise up and live out the meaning of its creed, that all are created equal. A dream, he said, that justice will roll down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. A dream that regardless of creed or color, that one day we would all gather together to sing in one mighty voice that we are indeed free at last. And then we fast forward just 5 years later in Memphis, Tennessee, where less than a day before he met his fate, to a gathered assembly of sanitation workers on strike, this very same man told them that he had indeed been to the mountaintop and that he had seen the promised land. And although we would not get there together, he would not get there with us, that he wasn't scared because, as he said, Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He dreamed us beyond the edge of what he already knew, but something that we had not yet realized. From the beginning of time and all of recorded human history, we have been yoked to the radical imagination. We have been finding the edges of what we know and what has been possible, and we have chosen time and time again to grow our dreams beyond that edge. Imagination itself, although abstract in concept, needn't be abstract as a whole. We often approach imagination as child's play or a comforting notion of escapism, something of a luxury or a pastime, but imagination is serious business because we are the benefactors of the radical imagination. Going back again to the Australian Aboriginal creation stories commonly called the dreaming, they're not static and immovable, frozen in time. These stories are foundational to the spiritual life of the First Nations people throughout Australia. These stories of co-creation, they're more than simply lore or myths. They serve as a compelling force for change and fighting for the Indigenous people and their land. They serve as a force that supports their fight for the protection of their sacred sites where their ancestors live. The Margua Lagoon is such a site. The lagoon is one of the many sacred sites of the sovereign nation of the Tati Tati peoples. For thousands of years, it has been their spiritual task to care for those waterways, to keep them flowing and clean and healthy, because in Aboriginal law, the health of the land and the water is deeply rooted and connected to the health and the spiritual wellness of the people and the animals. But of course, the impact of colonialism and environmental degradation has had devastating effects on the land and the water. And because a byproduct of colonialism is the eradication of authentic culture and tradition, the Aboriginal law that had been in place for thousands of years has gone widely unrecognized and unacknowledged, and the water and the land and the ecosystem and the people are suffering. But despite that narrative of colonialism and extractive capitalism, despite that myth that it tells us that we are powerless, that our voices and our story and our culture doesn't matter, despite all of that, the Tati Tati people are choosing to dream beyond the edge of what they have been told about their own power and their own convictions. Guided by the spirit of their ancestors and their capacity to dream beyond the edges of the world they inherited, they are using the radical imagination as a tool to create solid actions of justice for their water. One such action that they are doing currently is called cultural flows. This is a water management system that is developed by First Nations people to return the rights of the water and the management of the water and land to its traditional owners. And at the Margua Lagoon, the Tati Tati people are creating these new models to figure out exactly how to bring this concept of cultural flows to life. The blending of ancient wisdom and science with modern ideas and contemporary technology, it speaks to the ways that the radical imagination can and has transformed all of our societies. It's shown us that there are other ways to be stewards of the land that we have been given and entrusted. It shows us that we can show up to protect our precious resources. So now we return to another kind of dream. That dream of transformation, formation, and renewal. That dream that in its own right is a dream beyond the edge. So now we've done a really good job of sanitizing Martin Luther King Jr. over the years. We've done a really good job of reducing his activism to familiar and comfortable sound bites, even using his words and quotes to shut down conflict or prove some oversimplified point, but make no mistake, MLK Jr. has left behind a radical legacy. Indeed, if he were still alive, he'd probably still be considered public enemy number one. And not because of his work for civil rights or desegregation, but because near the end of his life, his message expanded well beyond this one solitary issue, and he cut deep into the American sociocultural system right where it hurts. And this happens a lot with historical figures. Jesus of Nazareth comes to mind, whose words, as we know, are so often used for hate and judgment. Although the historical figure of Jesus was radical in his very nature, this man, whether considered deity or human, from a historical perspective, he spent his time with the most undesirable people of his day, and he defied the laws of the time, saying that the kingdom of God is within you. Incredibly culturally subversive in so many ways, so much so that he, just like MLK, was assassinated. And MLK similarly used his central message to dig deeper and reach beyond. Initially, as we know, his platform mostly focused on desegregation in the South. Using philosophies of nonviolence, his prolific and moving speeches, they spoke to the heart of America. His strategy of using provocation and direct action, it compelled the system of segregation and Jim Crowism to show itself to the world, and people paid attention. It was impossible to ignore. And it activated the masses, and change was happening, but as the years went on, it was impossible for him to ignore how interconnected and interlocked these systems of oppression were. Impossible to separate segregation from militarism, from poverty. And his message and his direct action reflected that. No longer was he using his platform to solely focus on segregation and racism as separate issues. Someone once said that MLK didn't want a larger piece of the pie. He wanted to change the whole damn recipe. And that made him dangerous. It was one thing to fight Jim Crowism, but another to tear at the very fabric of our economic system, of our socio-political system. His final speech was addressed to the Memphis sanitation workers who were striking. And when you watch his footage and you listen to his words, you know that he knew that he wasn't long for this earth. It's eerie how prophetic that speech was. And even still, a day before he was to die, when he knew that he was going to die, he used his last public words to take us beyond the edge. Yes, he had a dream in 1963, and by 1968, he had seen the mountaintop. He had seen the other side, and he was inviting us to see that with him. He was inviting us to go beyond the only known edge of existence and to dream of an abundance that he would not get to realize himself, and he knew that. His dreaming of a future for all people and his vision of the mountaintop, it represents an imagination that is as radical as his legacy. And in the present day, it is astounding how much of that dream has, in fact, been realized. And not because everything is perfect, and not because all of the work is done, but because the work continues with fresh ideas and new minds, and old problems with new eyes and new minds and new ideas and innovation. That movement paved the way for so many movements that followed it. And we also know that MLK wasn't the only one of that time working for this kind of justice. We know that so many voices and experiences were erased from the history of the civil rights movement. Women's voices, LGBTQIA voices, disabled voices, voices in the margins, voices that even the civil rights movement wasn't ready for. And those voices have since been centered and uplifted and brought to the forefront because of the work that continued and continues still to this day. Because when we dream beyond the edge, we realize that there is no edge. There is no end to what we can do. So often we look to historical figures or ancient wisdom to give us the answers, but that can't give us all the answers because we have to cross the threshold. We have to move beyond what we know because our futures depend on it. We grow beyond the edge for the children of our children because they will be the benefactors of our dreaming, of our radical imagination. But our radical imagination doesn't just matter for the future. It has implications in the here and now. I mean, look at our world right now. How easy is it to fall into the pit of despair, and for good reason. I reflect on the last decade of political extremism in this country, a constant train of scandal and corruption and disaster and tragedy, to even open up one's phone to engage with the news, to log on. A new fear around every corner, a new outrage, and we are exhausted. The role of corporate greed and climate chaos, and this large-scale gaslighting when we're told that if only we would do our part, we could save the planet, when we have to sit back and watch the large-scale destruction of our Earth in real time. We need the radical imagination now more than ever, and the good news this morning is that it is alive and well. Every day people are showing up and dreaming beyond the edge. People even in this space here today who are giving of their time and their energy and their dollars to create innovative solutions to join with their communities to face some of the most pressing issues of our time. Despite the narrative of despair, we keep dreaming. It's one of our greatest strengths as humans. We are unwilling to fall off that edge because deep down we know primally that the whole point is to grow our dreams beyond it. We are people, and I mean us, me and you, we are people actively moving through a threshold. And I have no idea where this whole thing is going, where it could go, but we know where we have been. And we get to decide who we are right now, and we get to build our future together, to celebrate what is sacred and mourn what is lost, and to sing our world into existence, and to dream a dream big enough to hold it all. May it always be so. Blessed be.
Generosity is at the core of what we do together. And this is a time when our generosity is needed the most. We all know of the devastation caused by Hurricane Helene last week and the lasting impact it has had on communities far and wide. There are many ways we are responding to the needs of our immediate community, but one of the most direct ways is to give. Today, we are taking up a special collection to share our plate with our community partner, UU Justice North Carolina. UU Justice NC is directly partnered with many community organizations in impacted areas, including the 4 main UU congregations in Asheville, Swannanoa, Hendersonville, and Transylvania County, who are asking directly for donations. The collected offerings from UU faith communities throughout the country will be given to these churches to use at their discretion to support and help those most in need in their communities, and will also help with damages to their buildings. There are many ways to give. You can give right here in person. You can go online at uuccharlotte.org. You can also text to give to 73256, and there's a QR code in your order service if you need that. We will share this information and other ways to support ongoing relief efforts more widely during the week, so you can give at another time as well. This is a time when our UU neighbors need us most, so let's show up in a big way. As the music plays, you are invited to light a candle of concern, hope, or joy. And you are invited to give generously as you are willing and able.
do indeed contain multitudes. When we gather here each week, we come with our gifts of blessings and burdens, joys and sorrows. We come with so much in our hearts and in our lives. And we don't come with the idea of perfection or the idea that we need to figure everything out or set everything aside for the sake of reverence. But we come together knowing that we can expand to hold it all. We keep in our hearts Catherine Covington East, whose sister recently passed away after a long illness. Those flowers right over there are given in honor of Rita and Tom Bowers as they celebrate their 35th wedding anniversary. Congratulations. And finally, of course, we lift up all who have been impacted by the devastation of the hurricane. Damage from last week's storm left many residents, including friends and members of UUCC, without power and resources for extended periods of time. We extend our prayers and hearts to those living in areas that are still severely damaged, including Asheville and surrounding areas, as well as Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee. Many members and friends of UUCC have family members, friends, and loved ones in these areas, and reports of people being without food, power, gas, and water are still numerous. To those with loved ones in impacted areas, we pray that they are safe and cared for. We pray that safety is found for those who have evacuated and are waiting to be able to go home. And we pray that the damage and the destruction of property and possessions is able to be repaired or salvaged, and that what is permanently destroyed can be rebuilt. We send our hearts to those who have lost loved ones or who are still searching for those who have not been found. And we send our gratitude for the first responders, the linemen and the utility workers who are coming from all around the country to restore the power and the water, and the relief agencies throughout the country who are providing precious resources for all the joys and concerns in our hearts, those spoken and known, and those held only by ourselves. Please join me for a moment of silence. I invite you now into a deep place of listening, contemplation, and of prayer, rooting yourself into this moment, perhaps settling in and closing your eyes or lowering your gaze. Spirit of life, Spirit of all of our lives, we join with so much heaviness in this world. We gather in this place with so much that weighs on us, the demands of day-to-day life, all that we can do and all that we can't really get to, the things that are failing, the things that are working out, the things that are going well, and the things that are so-so, and yet we still make space. We lift up our hearts to those who are struggling this morning, who are struggling in the chains of isolation, who are disconnected from their people, from their community, whether that is because of their own life circumstances or because they don't have power or a way to reach out. Spirit of life, we come as a people who are seeking, as a people who are searching and making meaning and finding hope in all of the unexpected places. We are people with a dream in our hearts and hands ready for action and justice. And there is so much gratitude for that in this moment, in this morning. Spirit of life, We seek guidance and clarity, ways to further connect to one another, to see each other's common, deeply rooted humanity in all that we do in this community, in this congregation. For the days and the weeks ahead, we pray for safe passage for all of those bringing resources to those in the storm. We lift up our hearts to those who are mourning the loss of loved ones, those who are fighting battles we know nothing about. And we come in gratitude for the opportunity to come together of our own free will and volition here, time and again, to live this life with one another and practice what it means to be fully alive. What a blessing that is. Ashe, ashe, and blessed be. Please rise and join me in our closing hymn, For the Earth Forever Amen. Please say with me now our closing words, our extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not